The Blue Chip Sports Network presents Get in the Game with Eric, Brian, Reggie, and Jordan on iTunes, the Blue Chip Broadcasting YouTube channel, and BlueChipBroadcasting.com.
Welcome to episode 78 of Get in the Game. We've got a great episode again for you tonight. The gang's all here. I'm joined by my partner Brian Nelson, by Jordan Santa Maria. Give me a thumbs up, Jordan.
What's up, Eric?
Reggie, right up in the corner for us there. We are doing for the love of the game tonight. We all miss baseball so much. We need to bring baseball back. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely, Eric. I missed it so bad I got a ball in my hands. I'm itching to throw it. I just promise I won't throw it at anybody because I really like my computer.
Well, and you can get fined for that now too. So, Jordan, do you miss the game?
Oh gosh, I can't wait to talk about all the stories. I know I was a basketball player, but back in my day, I'm telling you guys, I think baseball should have been the sport. I'm just saying, my height didn't really, do me any good in basketball, but baseball was the perfect size.
That's right, Reg.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, one of the greatest seasons of the sports calendar is baseball because there's something every day. Somebody's playing. If you just want to sit down and have a sandwich during your lunch hour or whatever, catch up on some scores, there's always something there. It's not somebody talking about something or speculating about something. It's live action happening. You get to follow the storylines. Unfortunately, right now we don't have any of that. So hopefully we're going to throw a twist out there and see if we can come up with something that's semi-entertaining.
Actually, what we're doing is we're providing community service. Here's what we're going to do. The four of us have purchased a baseball simulation computer game, and we are going to draft the four greatest teams in Major League history and have them play each other off camera, and then we'll talk about that throughout the rest of the summer, sporadically, bring you updates and see how everybody's doing. But we are going to hold a draft. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about our team names, stadiums that we've chosen to play in and why, and of course, why we fell in love with the game and what is so important about baseball to all of us here at Blue Chip Sports Get in the Game. And so let's get this started without wasting any more of your valuable time. This is going to be fun. Let's talk about our team names right off the bat. Jordan Santa Maria, what are your boys going to be called?
All right, so you guys are going to laugh at this, and the name makes no sense. But as I woke up this morning, and as I thought about all the things that are happening, and Brian commented on my haircut when we first got on this. He said, Jordan, look at you, like you got a haircut. And I said, man, Brian, I needed one. So my team, because my mom used to call me this all the time when I was looking scruffy, is going to be the Cha-Cha-Chias. Because my mom said that when I didn't get a haircut, I used to look like a chia pet, and that commercial would come on, and that song, that stupid song, that jingle, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, my goodness.
So we're going to be the Cha-Cha-Chias.
Jordan, the Cha-Cha-Chias.
Hey, Jordan, it could be worse. You could be the Chrome Domes, so.
Put that back on. The light was.
That's why it's on.
Reggie, what do we got over there?
So, admittedly, I'm gonna rip a name from my uncle because I just think it fits so perfect. He uses it in a lot of his fantasy leagues, and I've kind of adopted it. I've carried on the legacy. The family name, my last name is Wright, Reggie Wright, and so we're gonna go with the Wright Sox. So, we've got the Red Sox, the White Sox. We're going with the Wright Sox.
What happened to the left Sox? Do you not wear those? You only go one?
Nope. And who knows? Depending on how this draft goes, we might pick somebody without shoes and go with Shoeless Joe. We'll see.
There you go.
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Eric, if you think about it, he picked the right Sox because he's got all the W's in front of the right name.
There you go. That's Brian.
You're
like tracking with me. Yeah.
I've missed it somehow. I have.
Reggie's name starts with a W.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the Wins, and then the right, R-I-I-G-H-T.
Right. R-I-G.
Anyways.
God.
Where's
the sound effects when you need it?
Oh, gee. So far, we've introduced you to the Cha-Cha-Chias. We've introduced you to the White Sox. I made a flippant comment back probably 2 years ago when we first started this nonsense about Eric's exceptionals. we've got a chance to put them on the field here now. So watch out for Eric's exceptionals. They're coming for you.
You know what, Jordan?
Wow.
You know what we should do, Jordan? Is we should have a contest that our watchers and listeners should create a uniform concept for each of those. I would love to know what somebody would put together for Eric's exceptionals. The color scheme and the uniform design.
It would be the best uniform.
Unreal.
It would be something like those Bumblebee Pittsburgh Steeler look, like
Oh man!
practice
color.
gear jerseys.
Give me color.
I will tell you from this point forward, guys, just be prepared since we're doing YouTube now. Eric's going to show up with a ball cap and a gray shirt with pit stains, a whistle, a clipboard. He's coming whole 9 yards, guaranteed. He may even
Darn
shove a little
straight.
stogie in the, like, I don't know.
Whatever.
He's going full bore.
Whatever it takes. So we got the Chias, we got the Red Sox, we got the exceptionals, and now we have
Well, people know of me and some different things I do and calling games and doing some other things. But, the main thing for me is almonds, right? They're a nut. What do you got to do to get the shell off the nut? You got to crack it. So we're going to be B. Nellie's Nutcrackers.
Okay.
the Nutcrackers, the exceptionals.
I hear that they already have a theme song. It's from the ballet The Nutcracker. It really revs the guys up.
Hey, maybe that'll be the design on the hat. Instead of,
There you go.
cracking a nut,
Hey.
you got a ballerina up there and people try to figure out what that's all about. And we'll have
I'm just
our
saying,
color scheme will be red, green, and white.
There you
my,
go.
my mother has painted Nutcrackers for a year. I'm sure I've got an extra one we can get to you as your mascot. So B. Nellie's Nutcrackers, the Red Sox, Eric's exceptionals, and Jordan's Chias. That name, I
And
think, a little bit longer every time.
Yeah, not too many chas, okay? Just
Okay, I
three
gotta-
of them. Cha-cha-cha-chia.
Cha-cha-cha-chia. All right. Now let's talk about, who we are. Where we're going to be playing baseball. You got to have some place to play it. What house are we playing in, Jordan? Where are the Chias playing?
So-
Well, so there's so many, Oh, go ahead.
Hang on.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So I think Eric, you did clarify. This is a baseball simulation. It's an
That's
actual game that's predicated on baseball statistics throughout history. We're going to be drafting players based on their historical numbers, right? So for their entire career. I think it should be pointed out that, ballparks come into play. So we are actually going to be playing these games head to head. It's not traditional fantasy league where, a game gets played and you accumulate points as guys play in real life. No. We're setting lineups and we're putting guys in positions and running this simulation based on historical stats. And so in that sense,
my boys will be running.
the ballpark, as is regular in real life baseball, the ballpark is almost like a player in and of itself. Would you guys agree?
Oh, it's a huge factor.
It becomes
You
a
build
big
team
time factor.
based upon your ballpark. So that's why we thought we'd say what ballpark we're going to be using first, and then we'll build our teams to be most conducive to the ballpark that we choose.
So, Jordan, pick your house.
Yeah, so like I said, there's so many great options. But at the end of the day, I thought of one that, first of all, has a movie related to it, and we'll get there and I'll talk about that. But also one that I kind of just always wanted to play at, when I was younger. So let me pull up this shot of it. Can you guys see that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I chose Fenway Park, a historic park where the Boston Red Sox play. Dimensions-wise, it goes about 310 to left. That's the Green Monster. And that's kind of what I was talking about. When I was young, I think me and all my friends and all my buddies, playing the video games of MLB The Show or, just wanting to play at the Field of Dreams in Manteca because they have, the miniature version of the Green Monster. Just wanting to play there was so important. So I think the Green Monster to left kind of is like that key feature. And then to the right,
let's be real, Jordan. Let's be real. The Field of Dreams in Manteca is as close as you're getting to Fenway.
That's exactly right. You're right. But to right field, you got, pesky pole, and there's all this, historical, talk with pesky pole and what that means to, the Boston Red Sox fans. And then also something I like is that, almost to straightaway center, a little bit center right, they kind of have something very similar like Triples Alleyway in San Francisco. So Fenway was kind of the park that I chose. Again, another shot of it. Definitely a park I want to visit. I think the walkway up to Fenway is something that a lot of people have talked about that have gone. I've never been before. I know, Brian, I think you said you've been there, right?
It's unbelievable. It is so cool. That's as big of a treat as going inside the ballpark.
Right. So I think just walking up to the park, being at such a historic place, and I know you guys will, talk about your guys, ballparks that you've chosen, but I think with that big left field, hitting the ball over the green monster, something everybody wants to do, and then you got all the history behind it and the walk up. I think those are the reasons why I chose Fenway. And then just another shot of it.
It's the oldest park that is in use today. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah, over 100 years old.
So, hey, Jordan, for those that maybe don't know, how high is the wall in left field?
Brian, you might need to help me out with that. You're the historian on that. I want to say
it's like 27 feet high, but I could be wrong.
I was gonna say 35.
Okay, that may be
35.
I vote 42. I don't know.
Only when the exceptionals are playing.
Right.
You need to do that when the exceptions are playing.
Jordan will lay that. He'll extend it by a couple, 10 feet or so.
But
so
yeah, and then real quick with the movie reference, if you've never seen Fever Pitch, you need to watch Fever Pitch. It has Jimmy Fallon. He's kind of like the main actor in it. It talks all about being a crazy super fan of the Red Sox, but that movie all time, and it tells you everything you need to know about Fenway and the Red Sox. So
the Chias in Fenway Park, White Sox, where are they going? Oh,
well, before we go there, can I jump? I got an answer on how tall the green monster is.
Okay.
You said 35 feet.
That was Jordan.
Close, Jordan. 37 feet.
And
37.
You were 42. I wasn't that far off. My goodness.
Sorry, Reg. Go ahead. Where are the Red Sox going to play?
So, man, guys, this was really tough because, I teach history. That's my day job. And so, I've always kind of had a love affair with baseball history. And one of the things that I find uniquely attractive about baseball as a sport is it's really the only major sport where the rules are kind of different depending on where you play,
Absolutely.
And dimensions change. It influences the game. And it brings character to each individual team and each individual city where the park is located. And so, I love Jordan's pick in Fenway because I love the non-symmetrical fields. And so, man, I was looking, and I was really tempted to go to just do something goofy. Like, I'll tell you real quick, I looked at in 1958 when the Brooklyn Dodgers moved out to LA. Before Dodger Stadium was built, they played in the LA Memorial Coliseum.
Oh, yeah.
And so, normal dimensions in right field, but down the left field line, it was 251 feet to poke it out. And so what they did is they constructed a 40-foot fence in left field to try to level the playing field. And it was just an absolute disaster. That's where we get, Johnny Moon used to launch. He was a left-handed batter, and he changed his swing just so that he could flip home runs out to left field in LA Memorial Coliseum. And that's where we get the term moonshot. So I was really tempted to go in a direction like that, but I just went with something real classic. And I've kind of got, in a way, Jordan has the green monster in left field. My selection was Griffith Stadium and that's located in Washington, D.C. It's the former home of the Washington Senators. And it has its own green monster, only in right field. So it's going to favor left-handed hitters. So if you guys, the numbers are kind of small on the screen, but the dimensions at Griffith Stadium, here you go. In right field, the green monster is 320 feet down the right field line, and their wall is only 30 feet high. So it's a little shorter than the green monster. Real easy for lefties to just send them out in right field. But then you get down to center field, and it's 438 all the way out there. And, another reason that I like, you guys can kind of see it, there's a lot of inlets, and it's just kind of some weird stuff going on in center field. The bullpen juts out on the right side of center field, and then there's this kind of little inlet in left center field as you just kind of make the curve towards dead center. So all kinds of character out there in the center field area. But this is what I really loved about it.
It's an oddly shaped ballpark, a little like yourself. I can see why you chose that.
There you go. I felt like it spoke my language. We had a weird connection, myself and the stadium. Yeah. Down the left field line, it's 400 feet, guys. So, I right-handed hitters, come on down. Come down.
What you're saying, Reg, is you better have a center fielder playing left field.
Yes.
Defensively.
If you come to Griffith Stadium to play the White Sox, you better have a left fielder that can move a little bit.
All right.
Jordan, I think there's some other. There you go. There's a picture of the right field green monster in downtown Washington D.C.
Wow, right in the middle of everything.
Yeah. I mean,
almost looks
right
residential.
Yeah, and it's historical city, so there's a lot of this is where for the longest time the president would come and throw out the first pitch on opening day in Major League Baseball. It still happens, but this was this ballpark was located in Washington. But then once the Senators left in the early 1960s, the president would have to go outside of Washington, D.C. to Baltimore for a long time. So, for the longest time, this was the last place that the president threw out a first pitch in Washington, D.C. Now, obviously, the Nationals are there. But anyways, it's seen Teddy Roosevelt. It's seen Herbert Hoover. A lot of historical names from our country's past have graced the halls and the fields, or the field of Griffith Stadium in Washington.
Boy, you imagine if you had a seat down the left field line there, but you were in the box seats, but you were down the left field line, that would be forever to see home plate.
Oh, yeah.
Holy smokes.
That's a ways away. So the White Sox going to be at Griffith Park.
Yeah.
In Washington, D.C. I tell you what I did for the exceptionals. I chose the original home of my favorite team, a place where you have to have a center fielder to play. And since I birthed one, I love center field play, right?
Whoa, time out. You did not birth one.
Okay.
Your lovely bride birthed one.
Are you sure you don't want to change it to the Eric Immaculates?
I was there every step of the way.
It's a medical miracle, ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe we should have Dawn come on as a special guest and describe the difference between what she did that night versus what Eric did that night.
All right, fine. I have progeny that played center field. And, of course, this is perhaps the location of the most famous play in all of baseball. I chose the Polo Grounds. It is unique. It is unusual. The dimensions are crazy. If you just look at it.
Yeah.
They're talking about they're worried about 420 feet down the line someplace. You go to center field and on the Polo Grounds, and you're going 483 feet dead center field.
Eric, it looks like a giant hockey rink that's searching for an identity.
Yeah. It almost looks like a soccer field. Like, look at that play.
It found its identity in baseball. 483 to dead center. It is so far away. Only 4 times in the history of the stadium did anybody leave the yard to dead center. Interesting, though, it happened one of those 4. 2 of them happened in back-to-back days. Hank Aaron and Lou Brock went deep on back-to-back days back in the day in New York. It's located in Manhattan. It is phenomenal to center field. However,
I bet the stock market went nuts that day. Everybody thought that the world was ending.
Well, I'll tell you what, you'd have had more luck putting money on black than expecting Lou Brock, who was the all-time stolen base leader for forever, to hit a home run out to dead center field.
Hey, Sweet Lou could swing it.
He had some
but
pop.
not like that.
Egan's 483 to dead center. But now what's fun is you go down the lines. Down the line in right is 258. Down the line in left is 279. It is a hitter's park. I chose it because it is going to be so much fun. If you just take a look at some of the old historical photos, you can just see it is just the most bizarre looking stadium that you have ever seen. And then,
Hey, Brian, you were knocking left field, the left field box in Griffith Stadium. Check that out if you're in left center at the Polo grounds.
you're barely in the grass. You're barely sitting in the grass on that left field bleacher seat.
Boy, think there's a price difference between sitting down the line and sitting out in deep left center field? In
Man.
fact, it might be a different zip code.
I
Hey,
think
you know,
it is.
they had
It's
to
an
tell
area
people-
code difference.
One too many beers in that section, and you're playing third base. You fall out of the stands, and you're there, man.
But just look at that from behind home plate. The center fielder, even in this picture, if you'll notice, the center fielder has a lot of ground to play, and that's with the left and right fielder pinched towards center field. The lines are wide open. Even if you hit one down the line, just a ground ball through the right side, it's going to get to the fence, and you could be running for 3. I love this ballpark. And then, of course, the last picture I have, the most iconic play in all of baseball, Willie Mays making the over-the-shoulder catch after running about half a mile to get under it. He'll spin and make the throw and save the game in that way. It's just I actually have an autographed signed picture of that in my office. Brian was there when I got.
If you guys look real closely, there's on the top left of the screen, there's some windows out there in center field. The second one from the left, that's actually Eric sitting up there in that window looking down on the play.
Sorry.
Oh,
I was-
Hey, Jordan, I was going to say too, Reg.
40. He was 47 then, guys.
Hey,
I
Reg,
love
you
the
see the
Polo
guy
ground.
in the third window from the left? He's
Yeah.
the only guy that's never seen that Willie Mays catch because he was behind the other corner. You can actually see the catch from where he caught it.
The craziest part is there's people's feet hanging over the fence.
Yeah.
Like that
Oh,
is just
yeah.
all time.
Hey, when you come, let's play ball. Let's play ball. Come to the Polo Grounds, boys. Brian,
Man, could you guys imagine? That would be a nightmare for today's managers who do all the shifting. Every batter that comes up has a shift put on him. Can you imagine trying to guard the Lions at the Polo Grounds? It would be a nightmare. What would you do?
You play 4 outfielders.
we're about to find out what you guys are going to do. Brian,
All
where
right,
are
now we're going to move to
B. Nelly's Nutcrackers? Where are they playing?
we're going to go to the ballpark that Jordan's might be the most famous that still exists, but I think where I chose is the friendliest place to play a game. And it's the friendly confines at 1060 West Addison Street in downtown Chicago. Beautiful Wrigley Field. The dimensions are pretty standard. They're fairly deep down the lines. 355 down the left field line, 353 down the right field line. Where the ballpark plays small is in the alleys, 368 out to deep left center and to deep right center and 400 to straightaway center field. But the whole thing with Wrigley Field is it's not about the dimensions, it's about the wind. Whatever direction the wind is blowing in or out off of Lake Michigan determines whether that ballpark plays the smallest ballpark in baseball or the biggest ballpark in baseball. One of the highest scoring games in the history of baseball, Phillies beat the Cubs, I believe it was 23-21 in a game they actually played on MLB Network a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And absolutely just ridiculous to watch. Wind was blowing straight out, and any kind of even regular pop-up was blowing out of the ballpark. It was absolutely crazy. Jordan, why don't you give us a picture of that beautiful stadium? Look at that. Is there a picture more gorgeous than that stadium right there of the 4 stadiums that we chose?
Oh, please.
I didn't think so.
Brian,
Hey, how
one
many
of
of
the
you
things-
guys?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, how many of you guys have been to Wrigley?
I've
I've
been.
not been to Wrigley.
I have been to
have been.
Wrigley.
I've been.
And I just a quick story. I was there on a business trip right after they had gotten lights, and I was eating at Harry Carey's place. We'd gone in there for dinner, and just as we had gotten seated, the table behind us said, "Man, we got to get going if we're going to make first pitch." I didn't realize they were playing at night. So me and the person I was left, we looked at our watches and we said, "Forget dinner, let's go. See if we can get tickets." Took a cab ride down, got dropped off at the ticket office 5 minutes before first pitch. And for $13 a piece, we got seats 13 rows up directly behind home plate.
Again, Reg, back in the 50s.
He can't share what else he had to do to get those tickets because this is a family show, but,
No.
I got a question
Eric,
for you guys. Since you guys have all been there, what is going on? Like, can you buy those seats in that far left side or in that far right side? Because it's almost like disconnected from the stadium, right?
It is. So what
are you
happens,
talking
Jordan,
about on
is
top
those
of
are the
the
rooftop
building?
seats.
Yeah,
So
the
the apartments across the way have coordinated with the Cubs, and they're able to sell those seats. I'm sure there's some sort of license, or the Cubs get a little portion of the money, and then they sell. And they sell for $100 a ticket per game,
Man.
minimum.
Wow.
It does include all the food and drink you want too. So it's a party, to say the least. But they are some of the hottest tickets, and they are probably a good 450 feet from home plate.
Yeah,
Which means at the Polo Grounds, they'd be in the field of play.
that's true. That's true. Polo Grounds could get good money for those seats.
And you know what? You've got the beautiful ivy out there.
I was just going to say, Brian, you didn't mention the ivy. That's
the
what
ivy scores. And you know who the guy was who the story says that planted the ivy? None other than probably one of the greatest baseball marketers of all time and one of the craziest, weirdest guys in baseball of all time. A guy by the name of Bill Beck. And we could do an entire podcast, I think, Eric, just on the crazy things that Bill Beck did.
Yes, including employing a little person.
Yes. We might have to do that one time. And there is the blimp shot, I guess. But
yeah, Wrigley
cool.
nestled right in the heart of northern Chicago. It's a people's park. There's a lot of activity around the stadium. It's a really fun atmosphere. If you ever get a chance to go, I would not pass it up. I mean, that would
Notice there's no parking.
You have to take public transportation or cab.
Right, that's crazy.
There's no parking.
You take the train or you take the cab. You don't drive down there. That's not a good idea.
Now we know who we have playing and where they're going to play. Well, let's take just a little bit of a sidetrack for just a second, and let's talk about why we love baseball, where that love was developed, and where that came from for each of us. And I think we've each got a story about how we came to love the game. So, Brian, why don't
since I go last, I get to go first now? Yeah. Because it dovetails into why I chose Wrigley Field. My dad went to college in Chicago. He went to a small Christian college there. A lot of people don't know people that knew my dad knew he was a musician. But what they don't know is he was actually a very good baseball player. When he was there as a freshman, he set the school record for highest batting average by a freshman. And the record lasted for about 10 years. He hit .353 his freshman year at Trinity College in Deerfield, Illinois.
I may draft him. I may draft him. He might be a right side.
Did you ever hit .353 anywhere, Brian?
If you add the 4 years of high school I played, I think I got to .353. I was a pitcher, not a hitter. Ask anybody. But my dad loved the game. He went there and he watched the Cubs when he was in school. And back then you could only buy bleacher tickets day of game. So if he didn't have a class, and a couple of summers he stayed back there and worked. And so if he had a day off, he would go get tickets day of game. And he would sit out there and he would watch Ernie Banks of the Cubs. He would always try to go when the Giants came because he was a Giants fan, to watch Mays and McCovey and Cepeda and hopefully Juan Marichal was pitching. And so he loved the game of baseball. And so then he taught me the game from the time I was 3 years old. Actually, Eric, I think I was a better hitter. I have home movies of me slugging at 3 years old. better than if you watched me hit in high school.
That's called regression.
That's called major regression. And so what happened is, you know, I love all sports, but there's something about the game of baseball. I think because doing that was one of the things that I really enjoyed doing with my dad, because I'm not musical. Just ask Eric or anybody that knows me.
I was going to say, I'm not the only one that knows this.
But so that was my thing with my dad. He was music and he was sports, but baseball in particular. So I was the one who spent the time with him, baseball, and going to a lot of games. I remember my first baseball game. I was going to be 6 years old the next week, and my dad liked to surprise me. And so he came in with a Giants cap, and we went on a Saturday with a couple of my cousins and my parents and my aunt and uncle, and we went to watch the Giants play the Mets on a Saturday afternoon. And Eric won't be surprised that I remember who pitched that day for the Giants.
I won't be surprised.
It was Ed Halicki.
Oh!
Pitched for the Giants. And
What a great
it was a
name.
very cool. That's back when they had AstroTurf, Jordan, at Candlestick Park. AstroTurf.
Wow. That
And
was
so that's where my love came. And then having, you know, a daughter who was a softball player and boys that played some baseball through Little League, and one played into high school. But I've always loved a game because I think I like to analyze. Baseball's a game of numbers and analysis, and it's a slower pace. Maybe people think I don't think as quickly on my feet as others do. Maybe that's why it makes more sense for me. But it's a game I've always loved. I've always appreciated. It's a game I coached in high school for a few years. It's the game that, of all the games that we do on Blue Chip Sports, you know, baseball, Eric refers to it as my baby. And so it's the game that I enjoy. And if there was only one sport that I could watch or follow, it would be baseball, and the decision would not even be difficult.
so interesting, because that's going to dovetail a little bit into why I love baseball. It was 1975 that I finally
Applied for your AARP card? Just kidding.
no. In 75.
Sorry.
Eric, you can't wait. You can't wait because he's coming.
I
He's
know.
coming
Sorry.
for you.
I
That
know.
was just
Beyond
that was so
exceptional.
wrong. That was so wrong. Like Reg, like
Yeah,
totally
that's all
setting
right.
up his
That's
whole
all right.
story like it was gonna be so good.
I'm
One of the
sorry,
things-
man. I'm
one of
sorry.
the
I
things
ruined
we've
your
gotta
intro.
get-
I apologize.
Well, one of the
I
things
couldn't
we've
help.
gotta
You set,
do-
you set it up on a T. Sorry,
we
go
gotta
ahead.
teach Reggie to respect his elders. Holy moly!
We need to do the like around the horn mute or something like that. You know? Like,
So it was 1975 that I became a baseball fan. I was 10 years old at the time, not getting my. But I got to go back a little bit further. The earliest memory I have of baseball was going out in my backyard when I lived in New York, throwing a ball up in the air and having it hit me in the face and breaking my nose. I was not necessarily born a natural baseball. It was not good. I moved to California when I was 10 years old, and me and a buddy were just messing around down at the local Little League field here in Toronto. And a team came to practice, and the coach looked at the two of us and said, look, I'm really short guys. Do you guys want to finish the season with us and come play? And so, yeah, I donned the uniform of Rogers Brothers for 3 games when I was 10 years old. That's my first and youngest competition in baseball. I was a catcher who couldn't keep his eyes open, so there was not a lot of future there. Then at 13, at 13 was in 1975, and I was being mentored by this high school student who I thought was really cool, and he loved the Giants. So I figured if a cool guy loves the Giants, it must be cool to love the Giants, and I began loving the Giants.
Oh, look at you.
In 1975, with the likes on that team in 1975 of Ed Ho-Ho Halicki, the Moon Man Mitten, John the Count Montefiusco, Johnny Bones LeMaster, and of course my favorite player at the time, Jack Clark. I listened to them all summer, and as a matter of fact, got my street cred because I actually listened on the radio to the 2 games in 1975 where the Giants didn't draw 1,000 fans to the game. Now you look at Oracle now, now, and it's 30,000, 40,000. You know, that what 700 or 800 in one game, and I think 570 something was the lowest. I don't know. Brian probably knows this because he knows all Giants minutia. But anyway, that was the first year I kind of got tuned into baseball, and then I played the last couple of years. I played in high school, and I did fairly well. But where I really developed the love was after the Giants, and I had my son, and he started playing t-ball at 4 years old. Time he was 4 years old until he graduated from college, I learned more about the game of baseball and fell so deeply in love with it that it right now is. I find it to be the intellectual game. I find it to be there's just so many aspects. You've got to be an athlete. You've got to be a thinker. You've got to be able to hit, throw, run. You've got to have multiple skill sets. You just can't be big and strong or tall or can jump. You got to do all kinds of different things. And so I will never forget the experience of walking with my son all the way from 4 years old till he finished playing in college as an All-American. It was I will never ever forget those days. I will tell you, and Reggie, this is important to you. When Eli was 5 and playing in Little League, he played on the same team as his sister. And Lindy was playing, and Eli was up to bat, and somebody was in the on-deck circle and hit Lindy in the head with a bat.
Oh, no. Tell me who it is. I'll track him down.
San Diego kid. You're going to have to go down to San Diego, man. Anyway,
that's my wife, man.
Hey, that's why I love baseball.
Awesome.
You're up, Reg. Where'd you fall in love with the game?
I come from a long line of sports fanatics, and I think for me, my uncle coached basketball for a long time. Both my dad and uncle played basketball in college. My grandfather was he was a catcher in high school and was pretty good, but then he had to go off to war. He fought in World War II. So, sports was just a part of who we were growing up. And every time we'd gather for, some sort of event, a holiday or whatever, a lot of talk would be centered around what was currently happening in the sports world, all sports. It was fun. It was fun to be a kid growing up in the middle of those table discussions because my grandfather and my father were Giants fans. My uncle was a Dodgers fan, and whenever they'd get together, they'd trash talk back and forth. And as a kid who looked up to these guys, it was just fun to watch. It was fun to watch that happen. And I would come and spend weeks at a time over the summer when I was at one of the most impressionable ages for a young boy with my grandparents, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We lived elsewhere. We lived in Southern California for a while, and we lived in Northern California for a while. And I would come and spend, a couple weeks with my grandparents, and they just so happened to live across the street from the local Little League field. And so one of the things that we would do on a Tuesday or a Friday night is, walk across the street and just watch the Little League game. And, these kids, when I was younger, they were bigger than me. I looked up to them, and I kind of caught the interest in the game through them, just in terms of the game itself, the way that it was played and the excitement that surrounds a line drive into the gap or a strikeout with the bases loaded. The electricity that you can feel it's so silly, but even at a Little League field, it's one of the only sports where the anticipation is almost greater than the feat itself. And, you can become intoxicated by that watching it. And so that sparked the love of the game for me. But then as I've gotten older, I have fallen in love with the mythos of baseball. There are so many stories of so many wild things happening, both exceptional and ridiculous. I think of
just like my boys.
Right, ridiculous, right? Yeah. But there was the time you know, like I was incredibly fortunate to be. Man, I'm trying to think. I think I was about 12 or 13 years old when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were chasing the home run record. And it was nobody knew about steroids at that time. It was just a record that had stood for forever. But it seemed like the country was dialed in on that. And so that hit me right in the sweet spot at a great age. But then, you know, a few years down the road, I had the opportunity with that memory fresh in my mind, how important the McGwire Sosa chase was. I got to go watch Barry Bonds break the single season record. You know, I was at the park. And so, you know, I think of those great feats, regardless of the extenuating circumstances, the great stories. And then there's the ridiculous. Was it Bobby Valentine that got ejected from a game and then came back wearing one of the classic glasses and fake noses, you know, and tried to sit in the dugout and coach from
glasses.
Yeah, you know, just goofy stuff like that. I just think it's so unique in that anytime you go to a game, there is a chance that you will see something that has never been done before. And I think it's really the only sport that is like that. And so
can I
that's
pick
where
up on that, Reg? I don't want to cut you off.
No, absolutely.
One sport, Reg, where a team that wins 100 games can lose to a team that loses 100 games, and you're not completely surprised.
Yes.
Because anybody can beat anybody on a given day. That's not necessarily the case in football or in basketball. But in baseball, everybody's going to win 50. Everybody's going to lose 50. It's what do you do in the other 62 that really matters. And I think that's the uniqueness about baseball is you could take a pitcher who comes into a game with a 6.5 ERA and is 2-8, and he could take on Justin Verlander, and he's got it going, and Verlander doesn't, and he could
throw a no-hitter.
Exactly. It's the craziest thing you'll ever see.
Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting, guys, just real quick, this sports simulation that we're doing, there's also a board game version that my dad grew up playing, and he kind of introduced that to me when I was younger too. And I, through that experience, I kind of learned some of the stories of the older players, Joe DiMaggio, Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth. And there is a long-standing history of baseball and its integration with real-world history. You know, you got the wartime era where a lot of exceptional players were cut short. Their careers were cut short because they had to go to war and just different things like that. So it's a very romantic game. So it kind of hits me in the feels. That's been my relationship.
Where's it hit you, Reg? In the where?
I don't want to know where it hits him.
Right in the field.
Right in the sweet spot.
Okay. Ask the manager of the Nutcracker. What are you? The Nutcrackers? Are you taking notes?
Hey, Eric, maybe
trying to
maybe
find my
they
weak
shouldn't be the right socks. Maybe they should be
that's
the
not
Feels.
it though.
Yeah, they should be the feels. Woo. Jordan, let's wrap this up.
Save us here, please. No more.
Let's
feels.
wrap this up with your love story here.
Yeah, just as a kid, I was playing everything. So I played basketball, I played baseball, I did track, just whatever kept me active. And obviously I was very involved in basketball, and that's why I ended up playing, you know, collegiately. But baseball, I think, was like the change of pace for me, where I could play something that I had to really get better at, where I was already good at basketball, and I just enjoyed doing it. Like, you know, you can always shoot, you know, hoops by yourself and do stuff with that, but baseball, playing catch with someone, or, you know, going and doing batting practice with somebody, or, you know, just those type of things, or, you know, even just getting a wiffle ball or a tennis ball and playing, you know, stick ball and just hitting home runs over the fence. Just those fun memories I have with all my friends. Those are some of the best ones, even some better than basketball. And I love basketball, but those baseball memories I remember fondly. And Little League, I remember all the teams I played for. The Pirates, we won a championship in single A. And I was playing catcher, and the pitching machine would go, and I was still scared of the ball, so I would get out of the way, and the ball would go behind me, and no one was stealing in single A.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Back.
You got out of the way? I just closed my eyes.
I mean,
it hurt.
And took it in the nose, apparently.
Somebody should have told me I could get out of the way.
I'm telling you, I think I embarrassed my parents. I had all the gear on. I was like one of the bigger kids, and literally it's like a 30-mile-per-hour pitching machine, and I would just get out of the way, and all you would hear was the thud, and I'd have to pick it up and throw it to my pitcher. Like, for like 4 innings, I was playing catcher. So, like, I played for the Pirates. I played for the Muck Dogs. I played for the Nationals and Majors. We won a TLC tournament champion. So I remember all of those. And I think just professionally, growing up in the Bay Area, like Reg was talking about, the sweet spot of time, I literally was growing up as the Giants were winning World Series. Like, it was my favorite team. I went to all the parades, knowing all the players, even back in the day, always loving Barry Bonds and Aurelia and, Ray Durham. Like, I love these random guys, but that's my kind of short story of loving baseball.
Now, Jordan, didn't you have a pretty famous Little League coach?
That's right. Yeah, Tommy Tolbert. So
Tom Tolbert.
Mr. T.
Yeah, his son Weston who's like this big, like, he was humongous, and he had the flow. He hit bombs. Like, son Weston. We were good friends, but he was an assistant coach. Tommy Tolbert was the assistant on that team.
I bet everybody listened to him.
Oh, for sure. Everybody was scared of him, that's for sure. Like, great guy. Best barbecues. Oh my God.
I bet. So,
man.
Now you've learned a little bit about why we love the game, and now you know what we're going to do. So here's what happens next in this process. We're going to have a draft, and then we're going to come back and we're going to tell you the teams that have been put together the next time we get together. And you will be hearing names like Hank Aaron and Lou Brock, Barry Bonds and Mark McGuire. Might even hear about a guy named Enos Slaughter and a guy by the name of Shoeless Joe Jackson and a lot of other baseball people who may have been some of the best players to ever play the game. And we don't know much about them. So we're going to find out about them through this league that we're going to do and then give you scores, because heaven knows when the next time we're going to be able to get together and have real live baseball scores to talk about, we'll at least have a pseudo baseball scoreboard to give you every week, no matter what the topic is. And we'll have
loads and loads of trash talk, guaranteed.
I'm sure there will be a little bit of that, but we want to thank you all for taking your time to be a part of this with us tonight. Hopefully you love baseball as much as we do. And hey, by the way, why don't you tweet us or Instagram us or Facebook us or email us, or heck, call Brian. I'll give you his number. And tell us who your top 3 picks of all time would be. Your top 3 players of all time this week. And
you know what, Eric? I think we'll do is we'll throw a Twitter question out there too.
Okay.
And maybe each of us will put together a list of 3 guys. And if you had your choice of these 3, which 3 would you have picked? And we'll get that out there. We'll get the fabulous Chelsea B to get that out there between now and next weekend's podcast. And that way we can get a little update and kind of see if what we chose matched what everybody else thought about.
So hopefully, as we've talked about this, you've learned a little bit about us. You've learned a little bit about baseball and ballparks, and we'll just have a good time the rest of the way. So thank you for joining us. For all of us here at Blue Chip Sports, from Reggie Wright, Jordan Santa Maria, my partner Brian Nelson, my name's Eric Davis, saying thanks for listening, thanks for watching. Tell your friends, like us,
subscribe
wherever it is.
There you go.
Down here.
Subscribe.
Down. Sorry.
Down. Well, down.
Hit the thumb and the bell, right? The thumb and the bell.
There you go. Thumbs up and subscribe. And we'll continue to have a good time. Thanks for listening. And no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, just remember this one thing. Get in the game.
You've been listening to Get in the Game, an exclusive presentation of the Blue Chip Sports Network. Get in the Game with Eric, Brian, Reggie, and Jordan on iTunes, the Blue Chip Broadcasting YouTube channel, and BlueChipBroadcasting.com.